So good morning. Hello, good morning. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Late to my own class. How interesting. What does that say about me? Right, I am delighted to be back here. I'm just preparing my screen so that I can talk to you about this week's topic, which are the Niyamas. Last week we spoke about yamas, which were outward behaviours, and this week we're going to look at Niyamas, which are inward behaviours. We're following the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Ashtanga Yoga, Ashta meaning 8. So let's begin. So the Niyamas, there are 5 of them. The first one is Saucha. So I can see what I've written. Right. So Saucha is cleanliness, and I have just got out of the shower, so I'm practicing this, and it's about being clean, very simply put. So you can have cleanliness of body, so washing on a daily basis, or often more, depending on what your schedules are like, but at least once a day, wash everything. And then also extending to things like cleaning the body of impurities and toxins, so trying not to put negative things into the body, not putting things which are negative into the body, like alcohol, cigarettes, different drugs, caffeine, all sorts. Having a clean body, having a clean mind allows for our practice to I think it's raining in here. Is it just my hair? Very strange. Very strange. Anyway, so be kind to your body is Saucha. So I've written here the phrase cleanliness is next to godliness. That phrase could be derived from this Niyama. Remember, these were written about 1700 years ago, so it's a long time. To have a clean body can allow the mind to be clean. Having clean surroundings, fresh bedding, clean clothes, a clean bathroom. This all displays a level of care towards the body. And for example, being a yogi can be said to be allowing care and love for this body, which houses the soul. You're just maintaining that temple and allowing the soul to have a nice place to live whilst you're on this planet together. You can also extend Saucha to being kind with your, being clean and kind with your speech, and extending past honesty and cleaning your speech of motives is another way of listening to this Saucha of being clean. So we can have a look at if you can clean your speech of different motives. You can clean it of emotion. You can clean it of negative words. So you can only use a neutral tone, or even, for me, even better, it's a positive tone. It just depends on how far you want to go with this being clean Niyama. So I could talk about that one until the cows come home, but let's move on to Santosha. Santosha is often said to be the contentment in yourself, in the things that you have, in the life that you have, in the relationships that you have. Now this one was quite tricky for me to understand, because I thought, well, what about life goals, and what about wanting more, and what about improving yourself with different desires? And this is a really good one, because it's a kind of acceptance. So often people say that you can't address a situation until you're aware of the situation, and so something like bringing attention to the present moment, contentment is a state of being where you don't want for anything, as you have everything you need. And understanding that we're all in this balance of being in the present moment, and then this niyama is an inward behavior. So it's the guide to recognize that ultimately we all have what we need. We've got air in our lungs, we've got water, we've got food, we've got beds to sleep in, we've got everything that we need in order to live. However, accepting your current situation and understanding it fully allows you to recognize if there are places that you would like to improve. So what I would invite you to have a look at is, have you ever thought of a time when, oh, if I have this, then I'll be happy? Or if that person wasn't like that, then I'd be happier. Or if, you know, if only this was as so, then it would be better. This is the niyama. Santosha is to just banish that way of thinking, is to erase that. So Santosha is a contentment. It's a type of contentment, and I'd sort of invite you to just dissolve the if I had, or if only, that. Just dissolve that and allow just being content and just going, oh, it's like that, great. and see how it goes. So moving on to tapas. Tapas can be said to be a type of heat, and it's spiritual austerity. Austerity sounds a bit wrong. So it's also saying things like having faith and persevering and allowing spiritual support. So let's have a look at the word tapas. Tapas means heat, and I would relate it to having a burning desire. So having a burning desire is an inward drive towards something that you want. So, for example, to be a good yogi or to be a practicing yogi, ideally should be on the mat every day. And I understand that sometimes you just don't feel like it. Sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're ill, sometimes there's not enough time. But what this is, tapas, is pushing past that way of thinking. It's to invite changing the viewpoint of, well, what do you want and what are you willing to do to get there. Discipline does sound a bit tough, but it is that kind of way of thinking. Not austerity. I wouldn't say, you know. I guess a little bit of austerity. Austerity for me is setting aside things that are not important and focusing in on what is. So mixing this with the idea that you can only do as much as you can. This is that little guidance, like, have you done as much as you can? Who knows? Who knows? You probably know. So have a look at it. Tapas, nothing happens or gets achieved without effort being put in. So just put in the effort. See what happens. Oh. So the next one is Svadhyaya, or studying the spiritual texts. Now, this niyama invites yogis to study the sacred texts, sacred and spiritual texts of of Hinduism, which is where a lot of the yogi thoughts come from. Why read them? I've written here, why read these ancient texts? Because they are spiritual texts, they are religious, they are, you know, not everybody's cup of tea. Some people prefer yoga to just be the physical aspect, but here we are on the course looking at all the different sides. Oh, excuse me. So looking at study of the Vedas is quite interesting, because when you have spiritual texts, they go beyond kind of Oh, excuse me. There's a we're looking at a way to evolve our mind. So when you have a look at these texts, they start to explain things which are just beyond our comprehension. So there's one text that I remember where they're just describing how one of the gods looks like, the Almighty. And I need to research this a little bit more, but he's one of the characters in the text is saying, "Will you show me your true form?" And the god says to him, "No, because your brain will explode," basically. And then it goes on to describe, what could be. What I'll do is I'll get the text and I'll see if I can read it to you guys, because it's fantastic. It's like an adventure story. If you want to have a look at it that way, having a look at yoga as a way of life is just something that's just really, really quite interesting, and allows connection with something that's bigger than yourself, and having faith in something other than yourself. It kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. So have a look at the text, because they're really interesting. Sorry, I think I've got getting up. I don't know what's going on. Sinuses playing up. But so the Svadhyaya, or study of the spiritual text, and I've written here, and of the self. Oh, excuse me. So have a look at them, see what comes. They describe the duality and a non-duality, the connection between God and the soul, and this kind of day-to-day practice that can help the human get closer to the divine. And I think it's very interesting, because imagine cultivating that power and allowing there to be this connection. And when you have a connection, there's a transfer of energy. So when the energy is transferred from the divine into the physical body, it's just like, could you imagine how cool that would be? I mean, we generate a heat within ourselves when we're on the yoga mat, and the idea is to keep the body healthy and strong. Because if we, for example, let's play, because why not? Imagine if we could see this description of this god with 1,000 heads and 1,000 arms, and a voice which is just not possible to be heard without your ears exploding, and being able to see something that wouldn't make your eyes pop out of your head or something. Who knows? In order to carry that power, that divine connection, and that spark of something special, kind of needs a really strong body to hold it in this reality. So, I mean, I'm going off on these spiritual texts, but they are really, really fantastic when you start to have a look at them, because there's parts of, can you imagine, there's parts of the text that I want to be careful when I say this, but there's part of the text which are not shared, because apparently when you have that connection with the divine, you get magic powers. You can have a power of invisibility. You cannot be seen by people. You can, I mean, there's so many stories of yogis who survived without food, without water. So there's this other energy that starts to get explained in the text, and you've got to try it. It's so interesting. So the final one, and then I'm going to go back through the different niyamas, because I think it would be great to have a recap. But the final one is, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, Isvara Pranidhana. Isvara Pranidhana, which is surrendering to God. Now, if you're not spiritual or you're not religious and you just want to stay on the mat and sweat and get a really fit body. Perfect. However, yoga is that connection with the divine. So you're connecting with something through the physical practice. And this one, this niyama is saying surrendering to God, or surrendering to a higher power, or surrendering to nature, or surrendering to something that you cannot imagine. It's just to just surrender. Stop fighting. Just go with it. Flow with it. So I've written here that, and I do believe this, that all humans have this power inside of them that is just incredibly immense. It's immense. It's impossible to think about the way that the human body can move with all things. Like Soleil, if you haven't, YouTube it, it's amazing. The human body can move in such an incredible way. The human mind can work in such an incredible way. The human heart, with full of emotion, can work in such an incredible way. And this niyama just allows you to just go with it. Just see what happens. It's also quite interesting that this is the last of the niyamas. So it's kind of like saying, once you've done all of these things, once you've worked on your yamas, which we spoke about in the last episode, in the last class, once you've done those, and then once you've done these niyamas, then you just gotta let go and see what happens. So those are the 5 niyamas. And then the next limb of yoga is asana, which are the physical practices, so the postures, getting on the mat, going through the sun salutations, and progressing with the physical body. So I think what's really interesting is that we start off with changing the behaviors. And I think a lot of people come to yoga because they look at it from a health perspective, like a physical health perspective. But what's interesting is that the first and the second paths of yoga, limbs of yoga, are very much to do with behaviors. They're very much to do with the ideas and the philosophy and the motives. And the third one is getting on the mat. So have a look at it. It's very interesting, and I'm very grateful that yoga as a physical activity is so popular. But I would love for more people to know about the first 2 at least, because it's so much bigger than a sun salutation, and people go, oh, yoga's just a bunch of heavy breathing. And it's like, it's not about meditation or breathing or things like that. There's other things that come into it. So excuse me about my hay fever, or I don't know what's going on in my nose, but I'm going to go through again the niyamas, which are the inward ways of behaving. And when we've done that, then excuse me, what will happen is we'll go through it again, and if you have any questions, you can just always send me a message and see what comes. So the 5 niyamas are Saucha, or cleanliness, being clean in your mind, in your body, in your surroundings, and that will lead into having the cleanliness of the soul. Second one is Santosha, or contentment. Take stock of your surroundings and understand that you can be grateful for what you have. We have everything we need. And the next one is Tapas, or the burning desire and the spiritual perseverance. I'd like to remember that one as understanding that sometimes things won't be easy, but good things aren't easy. Need to keep going, need to desire, need to move forward into the practice and see what comes after. Svadhyaya, or the study of the Vedic spiritual texts. Just open one of them and see what comes. I mean, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. If you have a look at it from a perspective of fantasy, they're so immensely wonderful. If you have a look at it from the perspective of a religion that can be followed, imagine how cool it would be that if this was true. So you've got nothing to lose to read them. They're incredibly good fun, which is unusual for a spiritual text. Have them fun. Anyway, don't crucify me for that, please. And then Isvara Pranidhana, surrender to God, surrender to nature, see what comes. Once you've done all of these things, let it go, and don't put stock in the outcome. Just see what comes. So those are the 5 niyamas. I hope you've enjoyed this short episode. If there's anything that I can do, send me a message. If you'd like to know more, send me a message. I might go through and write up my notes and add more things in. But I think as a start, these are just some ideas to spark your imagination, and there's 6 more limbs to come. So if you'd like any extra information, send me a message. So the ways to contact me: you can contact me through Facebook. Just look up Amazing Aliya Holistic Therapies. You can be part of my art group, where I bring yogic philosophy ideas and mix it with different approaches to art to get a therapeutic art class going. So I think it's quite nice to blend those two. So you can look up the Amazing Art Society and find the website. We also have meetups. We have a weekly meetup on a Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Spanish time for about half an hour, just to touch base with everyone and see how everyone's doing. We have different art projects each week that we communicate within a WhatsApp chat, which you're very welcome to join. So that's the art side, and then the yoga side I want to pursue further. So hopefully I will see you next week, and I want to send you all my love, and I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and leave me a comment and just let me know if there's anything I can do. Happy to help. All right, lots of love. See you soon again. Bye bye.